You ever wonder why you still get that warm, welcoming feeling when you load up that old Minecraft world after more than a decade? Or why the sight of a pixelated landscape, or a familiar soundtrack, or even an old menu screen title makes you transport back into a different version of yourself? Maybe it's the soundtrack of those old games that we remember so fondly, those opening notes that you can hum from memory, notes that feel less like a sound and more like a time machine to back when life was simpler and responsibilities were lighter and joy easier to access. Gaming nostalgia is more than just fond memories. It's not just about reminiscing, it's a psychological force, a bridge between who we were and who we are now. It reconnects us to our childhood selves. These are not just games, they're milestones. They are bookmarks in the story of our lives. You see, neuroscience tells us that nostalgia doesn't just recall the past, it makes the past emotionally present. It floods the brain with comfort, familiarity, and meaning. When we revisit those games, even for a moment, we don't just play, we reconnect to our younger selves, to a time when joy was simpler and the world felt just a little more magic. This isn't just about reminiscing games, no, it's about understanding why they hold us so tightly long after the credits roll, why they echo in our hearts, not as distractions or hobbies, but as living fragments of who we are today. So today, we're going to be diving into the psychology of nostalgia in gaming, into why these digital worlds never truly leave us, and why decades later, we find ourselves chasing the glow of pixelated memories that refuse to fade. When we return to an old game, we aren't just playing them. Like I said, it's as if we were traveling through time. Those pixelated landscapes or low poly character models don't just remind us of the game itself. They remind us of who we were when we first held the controller. The person behind the screen years ago, the child, the teenager, the dreamer, comes rushing back with every familiar sight and sound. Booting up a childhood favorite is more than entertainment. It's an emotional anchor. It reconnects us to moments that feel safe, joyous, and full of wonder. A character's theme song, a simple menu screen, or even the grainy textures of a town can trigger a wave of comfort. These games are less about what's on the screen and more about the feeling they unlock. Afternoons when time felt endless, summers that seemed to stretch forever, nights spent wide-eyed discovering worlds for the first time. The dated graphics, the awkward controls, the clunky menus, they all carry a strange kind of beauty because they aren't just artifacts of outdated technology, they're artifacts of memory. They remind us of a world untouched by the chaos of today, a time when the hardest choice was which cartridge to slide into the console, or whether to stay up just 15 minutes more just to finish that last quest. That simplicity, that innocence is woven into the code itself. Psychologists call this a temporal bridge, a way for the mind to connect the present to the past. See, in revisiting old games, we're not only remembering, we're re-experiencing. The brain doesn't distinguish between recalling and reliving when nostalgia is this powerful. The joy you felt when you first beat a boss or discovered a secret level doesn't just stay in the past, it becomes alive again and again and again, coursing through your body, flooding you with the same excitement you thought you outgrown. And that's why these echoes of childhood remain so strong, because they aren't just about the games, they are fragments of ourselves, like I said earlier. Every revisit is a reunion in some type of way, with who we were, with who we wanted to be, and with the innocence we thought we'd left behind. The pixels may have aged, the polygons may have looked crooked, but the feelings they evoke, those remained untouched, and they're eternal, and they're echoing across the years every time we press start. Now, nostalgia isn't just an emotion, it's simply biology. When we think back on positive gaming experiences, our brains don't just recall them, they simply just relive them. They replay the dopamine surges we felt in that moment, the thrill of stumbling upon a hidden level, or the rush of victory after hours of failure. Simply, dopamine is the brain's reward chemical. It fires whenever we achieve something meaningful or when we anticipate achievement. Games are uniquely engineered to trigger this response. Those types of moments of reward reward carve grooves in our neutral pathways. Over time, the grooves deepen, turning fleeting bursts of joy into lasting emotional landmarks. This is why replaying an old game can feel so powerful at some point. See, your brain doesn't just remember, it reactivates. It reawakens the very circuits that once flooded you with excitement and joy. That's why nostalgia feels so alive, so versatile. It isn't just a passive reflection, it's an active chemical re-experience. In this sense, nostalgia almost works as a psychological addiction. Not destructive like compulsive gaming or gambling in that type of way, but alluring in its own way. Our brains learn to chase these peak experiences, the moments that deliver pure reward. Old favorites become reliable triggers because we know that they would deliver, because they've delivered before and before and before. Booting up an old game isn't just a gamble, it's a guarantee. And so the brain tugs us back again and again and again, urging us to relive those highs. And yet, what makes this specifically fascinating is how the brain elevates these memories over time. See, neuroscientists call it rosy retrospection, the tendency to recall past experiences more positively than they actually were. But the brain edits, simplifies, and amplifies the dopamine peaks, leaving us with a memory that feels even sweeter than the reality. So when we revisit these games, we're not just returning to pixels and polygons, we're returning to a neurochemical history, a map of moments where the brain felt alive, rewarded, fulfilled, and each replay isn't just an escape, it's an attempt to tap back into those timeless surges, these echoes of joy that biology has etched deep into who we are. See, nostalgia in gaming isn't just personal, it's communal. Entire generations were shaped by the same games, same consoles, in the same online worlds. Our memories aren't isolated, they overlap, interlock, and form cultural touchstones that millions of people share. Like for example, how Pokemon became a global phenomenon in the late 90s. Not just a game, but a cultural milestone. Or you can consider how Halo LAN parties defined a whole era of multiplayer gaming. See, each era has its anchor. Super Mario taught us the language of platformers. WoW turned online fantasy into a social lifestyle. Fortnite reshaped how younger generations experience friendship and culture itself. These moments transcended the games. They became collective memories or points of identity. To talk about them now isn't just a recall personal play sessions, it's to recall where you were in history, what it felt like to belong to that wave. You see, for many, these games don't just represent entertainment, they represent identity, a place in the larger story of gaming history, where their personal memories intersect with millions of others. Nostalgia in this sense is both a mirror and a map. It shows us who we once were, while anchoring us in a community that remembers alongside us. Nostalgia thrives in contrast. You see, the world today is noisy, fast, and relentlessly complicated. Deadlines, responsibilities, global crisis, social pressures, they accumulate, leaving us exhausted, anxious, and longing for something familiar. When we turn to older games, we step into a world that feels smaller. See, for some, nostalgia isn't about revisiting the past, it's about reclaiming a sense of agency. The world outside the screen is chaotic, filled with variables beyond our control. The old game, by contrast, is predictable, structured, and knowledgeable. It offers a temporary but powerful illusion of safety and stability. You can navigate it, you can master it, you can finish it, and for a brief time, that mastery translates into something we can carry with us. Calm, confidence, and a sense that not everything is slipping away. It's also about memory and identity. Like I said, these games don't just evoke moments from childhood, they evoked how it felt to be younger, underburdened, curious, resilient, and full of wonder. And each level completed, or each secret unlocked, or anything is a tiny echo of that version of ourselves. And for some, when life feels overwhelming, returning to those digital spaces allows us to reconnect with that feeling of competence, curiosity, and joy that can seem so distant today. In essence, nostalgia is a psychological sanctuary. The past isn't just remembered, it's also re-experienced, controlled, and made safe. The games we loved become become anchors, reminding us that even in a world that is vast, unpredictable, and complex, there are places where mastery, clarity, and comfort still exist. And in that controlled, pixelated world, we find a rare gift, a moment to simply breathe, to feel capable, and to remember what that life felt like. A game can sometimes be paused, understood, and eventually conquered. Nostalgia isn't something players chase, it's something developers actively cultivate. Remakes, remasters, and spiritual successors aren't created haphazardly. They are designed to pull at the strings of memory and emotion. Games hit us not only because they are good, but because they reconnect us to who we were, like I said, when we first played. They evoke the sound, the rhythm, the feeling of those original experiences, but with a polish that makes the memories glow brighter, fresher, and more vivid. But then there's this big question. What will gaming nostalgia look like decades from now? What titles are being released today will players long for in the year like 2035 or 2040? Will the cultural phenomenon of our time like Fortnite or maybe Elden Ring or the spiraling VR world of tomorrow be remembered with the same reverence that we reserved for like games like Super Mario or Pokemon? You see, the cycle of nostalgia never truly ends. Every generation creates new anchors, new shared moments, new triumphs, new worlds to return to. Just as we look back on the games of our childhood, future players will find themselves tracing the echoes of their own formative experiences. Discovering the pull of nostalgia is timeless, and perhaps the most fascinating part is that nostalgia isn't just a reflection of the past, it shapes the future. The games we remember influence the stories developers tell, the worlds they build, and the experiences they craft for the next generation. Memory nostalgia is ultimately a bridge not only between past and present, but between generations, connecting players, creators, and worlds across time. In the end, nostalgia in gaming isn't just about the past, it's about who we are today. It connects us to our childhoods, binds us to our communities, and provides comforts in times of uncertainty. It's a reminder that these digital worlds aren't just pixels and code, they're memories. They have their own identity. Yogurts. I know it's been a little bit. I know I said I'm gonna try to be on here as much as I can, but it's just a lot of shit I've been doing, like with school. You know, I can't really hold that off. But I'm working on a lot of stuff right now, so I'm going to get those out as soon as I can. But it will be fun. I've figured out a way to manage my time to do this better, and I'm going to try to do this a bit more regularly. If I miss, I miss. If I don't miss, well, that's good. So hope you guys enjoy what's coming up, and because there's stuff that I actually enjoy, and I really hope you guys do too. So yeah, I'll see you guys when I have those.